Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
I live a few miles away from the Hockomock Swamp, a main part of the Bridgewater Triangle, a massive area of heightened paranormal activity in eastern Massachusetts. The swamp was the burial ground for a massive Native American slaughter a few hundred years ago. King Philip's War. The few natives left, before defeat, supposedly cursed the swamp to never bear fruit. To this day it remains undeveloped swampland, just power lines for a dozen towns. Since colonial times, bizarre reports began to be told about the Triangle area, including giant snakes, strange creatures, ghosts, and missing people. In more modern times, reports include people having seen Bigfoot, UFOs, ominous black helicopters, mysterious balls of light, poltergeist activity, and cattle mutilations. Early on, the forest was said to have been home to a race of diminutive humanoid creatures known as Pukwudgies. Long known in Delaware and Wampanoag Indian folklore, these troll-like creatures, generally described to be about 3 to 4 foot tall with smooth hairy gray skin and large ears, have a notorious reputation for mischief and mayhem. They were once said to have been friendly to humans but later turned against them. These evil little beings have been blamed for people who have fallen from cliffs, disappeared, or mysteriously died. If you're in the New England area, it's worth checking out. The vibe at night in the warmer months is insane to experience. Dark and oppressive. A once-in-a-lifetime experience of cursed swampy vibes. Quick Greentext. First time exploring swamp summer of 2015. A group of my friends and I headed through one of the trail openings and began walking the power lines, looking for an entrance into the swamp. Couldn't find one. Get bored, leave. That night, shelf falls off the wall, wakes me up. Insane dream of native chief telling me to never go back there again.
I'm from the Bridgewater Triangle just across the border with Massachusetts. That whole area is haunted. I'll give you some pointers. Aquidneck Island is haunted as fuck. That's where Newport and Middletown are. Glen Park is one location you might want to check out. Just outside of Glenfield is a wooded trail that is used for horse riding. Inside that area is an old abandoned mill from the 18th century. Pick related. The Mansion Walk and Ocean Drive in Newport have some spooky areas. Just generally the entire coast has some dark vibes. If you have time you should cross into the state and check out Freetown State Forest at night. It's been a while for me, but back in the day the cops never bothered anyone parked in the lot after dark. Massasoit State Park is only about a 30-minute drive from the border, not too much further from Freetown State Forest. If you wander around there you can see where there are still the foundations of old colonial homes from when the land was first settled by Europeans. Taunton and Lakeville are less than an hour from where you're going to be at.
The Bridgewater Triangle is an area of about 200 square miles, 520 kilometers squared, within southeastern Massachusetts in the United States. Since colonial times the area has been a site of alleged paranormal phenomena, ranging from UFO and black helicopter sightings, including many with multiple points of corroboration including police and a local news team, to poltergeists and orbs, balls of fire and other spectral phenomena, various Bigfoot sightings, giant snakes and thunderbirds, as well as the mutilation of cattle and other livestock. Central to the area is the mysterious and largely untouched Hockomock Swamp, which means the place where spirits dwell, and which was called the Devil's Swamp by early settlers. The triangle also has been known to house several Indian burial grounds. One of the most common phenomena reportedly observed in the area is spook lights, or what otherwise matches the description of will-o'-the-wisp, sometimes known as ghost lights, which are typically seen in boggy or swampy areas. The behavior of this phenomenon is consistent with mysterious lights allegedly observed within the Bridgewater Triangle, including those which are said to appear along train tracks every January.
I also live in the bottom right-hand corner of the Bridgewater Triangle. Some weird shit happens there, everything from Bigfoot to satanic rituals. Late at night. Don't believe in bullshit like this. Decide to go explore the woods. Bring a knife, gun, flashlight. Walking around. Smell smoke. Go near it, since in the past half of the forest burnt down. See an open fire in a clearing in a semicircle. A couple of people were standing around it. Smells like they're cooking something. Might as well find out. One of them has a mask that looks like pick related. They hear me moving closer. Guy with a mask pulls out a knife. Fuck off, I have a gun. Fire a warning shot in the air. None of them fucking move. 6 or 7 people come out of the woods behind the fire. Fuck this. Run the fuck out of there.
My friend was a call girl who dropped a gig halfway through with a straight-up murder cult down that way. Swansea or Freetown, I think. She said they were asking for sketchy-ass stuff she would never agree to. Blood and rituals with hoods and blinds and stuff. I read later that hookers were turning up dead in those woods all through the 80s and 90s. There's a UFO hotspot at an abandoned quarry, I guess. Never been though. It's a long hike from the road unless you've got a 4x4. Which in itself is weird. 'Cause up here down to DC is the most developed and first settled by Europeans region in the US. There's also a prison, state hospital. Smack in the middle of the triangle. If you talk to anyone who's been through the system in Massachusetts, it's the most abusive and corrupt facility they run. The swamp is called Hockomock, or Hockomock, forget which is the local Indian word for place where spirits dwell. They didn't live in there at all from what I understand.
I live in southern New England. Decide to visit the Bridgewater Triangle. Look it up. Ultimate vortex of paranormal for the region. Large area, so narrow exploration down to the infamous ice house. Hookers legit sacrificed in satanic ritual. Killer was on trial and jailed. Friends are too scared, so being edgy, and I am determined to camp there alone on LSD. Get there. Hike around woods until sunset looking for it. Eerily quiet, no birds or anything making sounds. Tripped hundreds of times, so relatively grounded still in reality with psychedelic flourishes as I navigate the forest. About 11 p.m. bushwhacking as I follow the GPS coordinates a random dude gave me online, which are supposed to lead to location. As I try to find the place, I keep hearing some sort of loud squealing that was in no way made by a living creature. No light except the moon, but I would see flashes in the distance now and then. Not scared but very alert as I wander through thickets which eventually open to a large clearing structure appears drenched in moonlight. JPEG. It's maybe 60 yards from me. I can see a dim light flickering inside while the surroundings are barely visible in the quarter moon. Quietly sneak up around the back and edge close to the broken window to hear anything inside the maybe 20-foot by 40-foot structure. Realize I'm tripping pretty hard and probably can't react fast enough if someone inside wants to harm me. Fuck it. Peek up over the edge of the window to see what's emitting light, who is inside. Huge burst of light and crackle flies out of the window and scares the fucking shit out of me. I let out some type of vocalization unconsciously in reaction. Someone inside yells out, "Who the fuck is out there?" I say, "Me." Slowly peer into the window. It's 5 dudes inside smoking weed and they were lighting off Roman candles. Go inside and hang out for the remainder of the night telling spooky stories, and we all get high until dawn, then we part ways. No true paranormal activity, but I got spooked at the time.
Live near the Bridgewater Triangle in a small town. Have a baby brother in the next room. He starts crying instead of just asking for his mobile to be wound up like a normal person. Start to get up when I hear the mobile start chiming away. I didn't hear footsteps. Get spooked and go into spy mode. Sneak out my open door to look into my little brother's room. Ready to yell for help if it's not mom or stepdad. Nobody's there.
Brighton friend, here. I went for a drive around the area back in November on a balmy rainy night. Walked around a supposedly active graveyard in Fall River, Oak Grove Cemetery. Didn't see much, but it was pretty spooky to be there at night. Drove from the cemetery on Route 44 toward the Hockomock Swamp looking for the red-headed hitchhiker. Didn't see anything. The further we drove through the woods toward the swamp, the woods start to feel really fucking oppressive. And the fact that it's really dark out there is disconcerting and adds to the anxiety. I pulled over in front of the woods to have a smoke and see if I could hear anything or see anything spooky from the woods. A cop cruiser drove by, so we figured it wasn't a good idea to stick around. We drove further down 44. Took Route 24 up toward the swamp more. We tried to cut through back to 44 through a creepy as fuck gravel road. It was so dark and we really expected to see a heroin junkie. You don't really feel like you're ever going to stumble upon anything paranormal. It feels more like you have a better chance of coming across a drug deal, some swamp Yankee white trash, or some kind of gangsters. I'd be willing to go back there again. It's definitely a spooky place, but the fact that it's pretty populated. I'd be willing to answer any questions, if you'd like. TLDR, it's a spooky place, but it's likely populated by opiate junkies/edgy teenagers.
I live in Massachusetts and have been to the Bridgewater Triangle once before while driving through on a road trip. Here's my experience. Be me, about 2 years ago, 18 at the time. On a road trip with two of my longtime friends, going down to Rhode Island for some can't remember. Go through Raynham on our way there. It's late at this point, so we decided to phone my friend's aunt and uncle that live down there and sleep there for the night. We get to my friend's family's place, very nice people. They set us up in the guest room. It's around 11:30 p.m. as we settle in, been there for about half hour. We shoot the shit and hang out before we start to doze off. The con is tomorrow afternoon, so we want to get some rest before we hit the road early in the morning. I get up around 2 a.m. I'm an insomniac, so this isn't unusual. Wasn't really an X-file back then, so I wasn't aware we were in the Bridgewater Triangle. Step outside for a smoke before I try to get some sleep again. Just about finished with my cig when I look up in the sky. Hovering a couple 100 feet in the air is this really weird aircraft. Triangular shape, 3 static lights, 1 at each vertex. No noise, but almost kind of a shift in atmosphere. Couple of minutes go by and I'm just out on the front porch watching this fucking sky triangle, when all of the sudden it just shoots upwards into the sky in a blink of an eye. Frozen with fear and disbelief. Go back inside and head straight to bed, but I don't end up sleeping. Don't talk about it. Friends would just try to call bullshit. Haven't told anyone about it since because I don't feel like anyone would believe me.
I live in the Bridgewater Triangle. Haven't seen many of the things that supposedly go on out here, but I heard about all of it years before that documentary came out. I do have one story though, that I'm positive you won't find anywhere else. Potentially the same entity, person, whatever, but not the same story. Driving up RT 44 through Taunton, right after the 44-24 crossover. Me and Buddy are going to pick up some weed. He's in the passenger seat. 2 lanes of traffic on either side, with businesses here and there. Median strip going between east-west bound lanes. Just big enough to walk on comfortably. See this guy walking, bright orange hair, ginger, in a nice black suit and tie, holding a briefcase. Buddy points him out just as I notice him.
Fucking moron. Who walks out there? He must have a death wish.
He's in a suit and tie though, and this part of Taunton isn't the executive type area. There's a Taco Bell off the next corner. Right as we're driving by him, both of us paying much attention to this weirdo, like, he's next to my car, he spins towards the road and just walks out into it. Now, there's traffic, it's a busy road almost all hours of the day. There shouldn't be any reason that nobody else saw him. You could see his tie blowing in the wind behind him as he hurried into oncoming traffic, his briefcase following behind just like the tie, because of how abruptly he moved. Buddy screamed out.
Fuck. That dude just jumped into traffic.
I saw it happen at the same time as him, and I was following his movements in my side view, and then rear view mirror. Once I saw him in the rear view, I immediately looked over at Buddy, wide-eyed.
Holy fuck dude. I've never seen somebody do that.
Looked back again, expecting to see some sort of accident. Cars skidding to a stop, getting hit by the ones behind them. A pile up. Or this ginger in a business suit flying through the air, mangled, as his suitcase tries to become a bird. Nothing. No screeching tires. No horns. No smashing glass. Bending metal. Nothing. None of the other cars saw him. Me and my buddy both saw him. He described him to me, and it was exactly what I saw. A ginger in a snazzy suit and tie, holding a briefcase. Calmly, abruptly, walking directly into 45 to 50 miles per hour traffic. Got the weed. Came back through the area, drove around it a few times looking for any signs of any of that. Nothing. Didn't smoke on the way back home. To be shaken from what we had seen. Weren't high on the ride up. Don't understand how that could have happened. Dropped him off, very confused. Started researching strange happenings in the local area. Learned of the Bridgewater Triangle, and all the oddities relating. Never anything about this guy. Never saw anything like that again. That happened maybe 12 years ago. Maybe 14. When me and him still used to hang out, we'd bring that story up every now and again. He wasn't the paranormal type really, but he knew what he saw. I can still see that guy turning on a dime. One foot in front of the other, walking the median, and then a split second later, he was behind the car, walking right into oncoming traffic. His tie flapping in the wind, trying to stay on course on the median, his briefcase doing the same. I haven't seen much paranormal stuff in my days, but that incident will never leave me. Still can't fully understand what we saw. There's also Dogtown, up near, part of Gloucester, that's supposedly been haunted long before the first settlers came. Freetown, Fall River State Forest. Satanic shit. Maybe 5 or so people have been murdered out here. A few sacrifices, and a few this looks like a great place to bring somebody out to kill. I saw an all-white wolf out there once. Heard a pack of them howling late one night. I mean, not that it's not weird enough seeing an all-white wolf. In southern Mass, it was so white, it was almost bright. Not necessarily glowing, but, I mean, it was bright. Like it was giving off its own light. Piercing blue eyes. Swear to God I thought I was going to die that night. Paused to get a good look at us, there were 4 people total, and then just, kept going.
I live in southern Massachusetts next to an apparently famous, haunted forest, the Freetown State Forest. The story goes it was cursed and haunted by native peoples during King Philip's War. There is still an active Wampanoag native reservation deep in there I'm told. And back in the 70s and 80s there were some cult murders and they found a girl cut and tied to a tree. They also found a strange bunker full of child-sized restraints and torture devices. May sound odd, but finding old abandoned bunkers in the woods around here makes sense. I find old houses and structures all the time around here in every town. This area is old as fuck. Also a few drifters wound up dead in there, but that was chalked up to organized crime. Due to the bordering cities of Fall River and New Bedford being local crime hubs. I've heard eyewitness accounts of everything from cults, native ghosts, a rock ledge that forces you to jump off and commit self-end, Bigfoot, and so on. My own personal experiences with the forest are finding cow skulls candles and a spray-painted inverted pentagram back there. When I was playing tag with some friends when we were little kids. A childhood friend of mine and her sister once found a dog nail gunned to a tree. And lastly, when I was back there hooking up with a high school sweetheart. Her car every time we got out heard what sounded like human footsteps and very inhuman grunting getting closer and closer as if trying to scare us off. Which I admit could totally be someone just fucking with two high school kids making out in the woods.
The Freetown State Forest has been the location of several crimes and incidents. Due to these events, the forest has become associated with the so-called Bridgewater Triangle. In November 1978, the body of Mary Lou Aruda, a 15-year-old cheerleader abducted from Raynham, Massachusetts that September, was discovered tied to a tree in the state forest. James M. Cater of Brockton, previously convicted of kidnapping in 1967, was convicted of the kidnapping and murder of Aruda in 1979. The Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court overturned the verdict, and he was convicted again in 1986. The verdict once again overturned, he was retried in 1992, with that attempt ending in a mistrial. In 1980, while investigating another local murder, police had been approached by individuals who claimed to have witnessed satanic cult activity within the state forest. These reports would have bearing on the fourth Cater trial, 1996 to 2000, which ended with the conviction upheld. In the 1996 trial, the defense charged that police had withheld information relating to the alleged satanic cult activity, which it claimed could have provided an alternative to Cater. 3 more murders were subsequently related to the state forest. In 1987, a transient drifter mistaken for an undercover police officer was murdered in the forest, and in 2001, 2 men were found shot to death on Bell Rock Road, which runs through the forest connecting Assonet and Fall River. 2 assaults were also reported, a Fall River man in 1991 and a teenager from New Bedford in 1998. Other incidents include hazardous waste dumping, 1996, reports of aggressive abandoned dogs, 2006, and reports of an escaped emu wandering the forest, 2006. In May 2015, a woman slid 80 feet down a cliff while spray painting graffiti, broke her ankle, and had to be rescued. In January 2016, an illegally dumped boat was discovered. Common to most of these areas is a mix of reported phenomena that includes reports of UFOs, mysterious animals and hominids, ghosts and poltergeists, and animal mutilations. Bigfoot sightings. There have been several reported sightings of a Bigfoot-like creature in the triangle, usually near the Hockomock Swamp. Thunderbird sightings. Giant birds or pterodactyl-like flying creature with wingspans 8 to 12 feet are claimed to have been seen in Hockomock Swamp and neighboring Taunton, including a report by Norton Police Sergeant Thomas Downey. Animal mutilations. Various incidents of animal mutilation have been reported, particularly in Freetown and Fall River, where local police were called to investigate mutilated animals believed to be the work of a cult. 2 specific incidents in 1998 were reported, one in which a single adult cow was found butchered in the woods, the other in which a group of calves were discovered in a clearing, grotesquely mutilated as if part of a ritual sacrifice. Native American curses. According to one tale, the Native Americans had cursed the swamp centuries ago because of the poor treatment they received from the colonial settlers. a revered object of the Wampanoag people. A belt known as the Wampum Belt was lost during King Philip's War. Legend says that the area owes its paranormal unrest to the fact that this belt was lost from the native people.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.